सर्वप्रथम त यस हाम्रो कार्यक्रमलाई स्वीकारेर आजको प्रस्तुता जो आउनु भएको छ डाक्टर रविन्द्र सापकोटा सर, उहाँलाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। त्यस्तै गरी यो कार्यक्रमको संयोजक गरिरहनु भएको डाक्टर प्रतिभा पाण्डे, डाक्टर सन्तोष नेपालज्यू, त्यस्तै गरी यस कार्यक्रममा जोडिनु भएका सम्पूर्ण सदस्यज्यूहरूलाई म यङ साइन्टिस्ट फोरम नेपालको तर्फबाट हार्दिक स्वागत गर्न चाहन्छु। प्रतिभा डाक्टरले भन्नुभयो जस्तै यो बिदाको दिन पनि तपाईहरुको जुन इच्छा छ, जुन हुटुटी छ, त्यसका साथ आज सहभागी हुनुभएको छ, यसको लागि विशेष धन्यवाद। यङ साइन्टिस्ट फोरम नेपाल भनेको नेपालमा युवा वैज्ञानिकहरूलाई एउटै थलोमा ल्याएर संगठित गरेर युवा वैज्ञानिकहरू, युवाहरूका स्वरहरूलाई हैन र उहाँहरूका समस्याहरूलाई हामीले उच्च लेभलमा कसरी पुर्याउन सक्छौं र देशमा विज्ञान प्रविधि तथा नवप्रवर्तनलाई कसरी प्रवर्धन गर्न सक्छौं भन्ने उद्देश्यको साथ नेपाल विज्ञान तथा प्रविधि प्रतिष्ठानबाट स्थापना गरेको एउटा संगठित मञ्च हो र हामीले भर्खरै प्रदेश स्तरमा पनि यसलाई विस्तार गर्नुपर्छ भनेर हामी सुरुमा 7 जना सदस्य थियौं, फाउन्डर मेम्बरहरू। अहिले 50 जना मेम्बरहरू थपिसक्नु भएको छ र हामी छिट्टै 7 प्रदेशमा हामी संयोजकहरू पनि तोक्दैछौँ। भन्नुको मतलब हामी संघीयतामा गइसकेपछि अब 7 प्रदेशमा यसका एक्टिभिटीहरूलाई हामी विस्तार गर्नेछौँ र यङ साइन्टिस्ट फोरम नेपालका विभिन्न कार्यक्रमहरू मध्ये एउटा कार्यक्रम चाहिँ हामीले के सोच्यौं भने यङ साइन्टिस्ट फोरम नेपालको टक सिरिज हुनुपर्छ भनेर हामीले कार्यक्रम बनायौं र त्यो कार्यक्रमलाई सहर्ष स्वीकारेर आज पहिलो एपिसोडको वक्ताको रूपमा डाक्टर रविन्द्र सापकोटा आउनु भएको छ। उहाँलाई पुनः स्वागत गर्न चाहन्छु। र यो टक सिरिजको मुख्य उद्देश्य भनेको के हो भने धेरै प्रतिभाहरू हुनुहुन्छ, धेरै वैज्ञानिकहरू हुनुहुन्छ, तर उहाँहरूले गरेका कार्यहरू हैन हाम्रा युवा वैज्ञानिकहरूको लागि, हाम्रो भविष्यका पिढीहरूको लागि एकदमै उत्साहमूलक हुन सक्छ, इन्करेजिङ हुन सक्छ, तर त्यो उहाँहरूले शेयर गर्ने फोरम पाउनु भएको छैन र हाम्रो रहर भएर पनि एउटा सिक्न खोज्दै पनि त्यस्तो सुन्ने अवसर नपाउनु भएको साथीहरू पनि हुनुहुन्छ। त्यो भएर उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ एउटा अवसर मिलोस् भन्नको लागि हामीले यो जुम मार्फत अहिले सुरु गरेका छौं, पछि फिजिकल पनि गर्छौं होला। त्यो भएर यो आजको टकले हामी के अपेक्षा गर्छौं भने धेरै युवा वैज्ञानिकहरू जो बायोमेडिकल साइन्समा चाहिँ काम गर्न इच्छुक हुनुहुन्छ, त्यसरी काम गर्दाखेरि कस्ता अवसरहरू हुन सक्छन्, कस्ता चुनौतीहरू हुन्छन् र त्यस्ता चुनौतीलाई चाहिँ अवसरको रूपमा लिएर कसरी अगाडि बढ्न सकिन्छ भन्ने एउटा प्रेरणादायक आज टक चाहिँ हामीले डाक्टर रविन्द्र सापकोटा सरबाट सुन्ने अपेक्षा गरेका छौं। त्यो भएर यसलाई मैले लामो नगरिकन मेरा 2 शब्दहरू मैले यो कार्यक्रमको सफलताको कामना गर्दै टुङ्ग्याउँछु र आई एम भेरी मच एक्साइटेड र मलाई लाग्छ तपाईहरु सबैजना पनि एक्साइटेड हुनुहुन्छ। अब चाहिँ म प्रतिभा डाक्टर साहबले यो माइक ह्यान्डओभर गर्दै रविन्द्र डाक्टर साहबको टकको म चाहिँ प्रतीक्षामा छु। थ्यांक यू।
थ्याङ्क यू मेघनाथ डाक्टर साहब, धेरै राम्रोसित भनिदिनु भयो। त्यसको लागि हामीले यो बारेमा सोच्दाखेरि YSFN टक सिरिजको बारेमा सोच्दाखेरि 3टा कुरा वाइ, हाउ र वाटको बारेमा भन्नुपर्दा चाहिँ छोटकरीमा वाइ किन गरिरहेछौँ त भनेर भन्दाखेरि देशमा साइन्स टेक्नोलोजी र इनोभेसनलाई चाहिँ धेरै महत्त्व दिँदैन, तर हाम्रो अवेरनेस यतिसम्म कम छ कि हाम्रो साइन्स एन्ड टेक्नोलोजी इनोभेसन चाहिँ कसरी हाम्रो डेली लाइफलाई चाहिँ यसले छुन्छ र हाम्रो नेपालीहरूले देशमा र विदेशमा कस्तो खालको चाहिँ साइन्स टेक्नोलोजी इनोभेसनको क्षेत्रमा योगदान गरिरहनु भएको छ भन्ने बुझाउनको हेतुले यो प्लेटफर्म सुरु गर्न खोज्यौं। हाउ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो पहिलेदेखि यो पुराण यताउति यसो हेर्ने हो भने अस्ति भर्खर स्वस्तानीको पनि सक्यो हैन। यो स्टोरी टेलिङ चाहिँ हाम्रो एकदम खुबी पनि हो र एउटा कल्चरल एसेट पनि हो। यो स्टोरी टेलिङको मार्फतबाट चाहिँ जो साइन्स टेक्नोलोजी इनोभेसनमा इम्प्याक्ट गरिरहनु भएको छ उहाँहरूलाई आफ्नो जर्नीको बारेमा भन्नको लागि यो बेस्ट वे हो जस्तो लागेर चाहिँ हामीले गर्यौं। र वाट भनेर भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ पडकास्ट र यो टक सिरिजहरू भन्ने चाहिँ 2004 देखि एकदमै व्यापक भएको र एकदम यो साइन्स टेक्नोलोजी इनोभेसनको इन्फर्मेसनलाई डिसेन्ट्रलाइज गर्नलाई एकदम राम्रो माध्यम हैन, जसले चाहिँ डेमोग्राफिक्स र यो जियोग्राफिक रेस्ट्रिक्सन्सलाई एकदमै नै फराकिलो बनाइदिएर ग्लोबल डायस्पोरा, नेपाली डायस्पोरा स्पेसलीलाई चाहिँ नजिक लिएर आउने काम गर्दो रहेछ र यो कन्भेन्सनल रिजनल र नेसनल मिडियाले जुन रेस्ट्रिक्सन्सहरू लिएर आउँछ त्यसलाई पनि पार गरेर चाहिँ यो माध्यम एकदम राम्रो लाग्यो र यो रेकर्डिङ, आजको रेकर्डिङलाई चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ युट्युबमा पनि राख्नेछौँ र यो सिरिजलाई चाहिँ कन्टिन्यू गर्न सकौँ भन्ने चाहिँ हाम्रो पनि ठुलो इच्छा हो र तपाईँहरूको साथ हो भने डेफिनेटली गर्नेछौँ। यति भन्दै आजको हाम्रो टक सिरिज सुरु गर्छौँ। हाम्रो आजको स्पिकर हुनुहुन्छ डाक्टर रविन्द्र सापकोटा। उहाँको बारेमा धेरै मैले भन्नुभन्दा उहाँले नै भन्नु ठिक हुन्छ होला। उहाँलाई धेरैले चिन्नु पनि हुन्छ नेपाल र विदेशमा। नेपालमा अलमोस्ट 2 दशक जति उहाँले आएर काम गरिसक्नु भयो यो क्षेत्रमा, रिसर्च, एन्टरप्रेन्योरशिप र नेपालको इकोनोमिक लेभलमा इम्प्याक्ट पार्ने तरिकाले उहाँले गरिरहनु भएको छ। धेरै च्यालेन्जेसहरू पनि छन्, उहाँको आफ्नै उसबाट नै सुनौँ। छोटकरीमा भन्नुपर्दा उहाँले चाहिँ बायोकेमिस्ट्री अक्सफोर्ड युनिभर्सिटीबाट पढ्नुभयो र पिएचडी चाहिँ इम्युनोलोजीमा गर्नुभयो ज्युरिकमा। उहाँको चाहिँ यो टेक्निकल युनिभर्सिटी अफ म्युनिकमा गर्नुभएको हो। त्यो बाहेक उहाँले चाहिँ इनफ्याक्ट 2टा बायोटेक कम्पनी स्टार्ट पनि गर्नुभएको छ आफ्नो लास्ट 2 दशकमा। अहिले चाहिँ उहाँ शिखर बायोटेकसँग आबद्ध हुनुहुन्छ। त्यसको बारेमा डिटेल्स उहाँले नै, उहाँकै मुखबाट सुनौँ। हामी धेरै नै इच्छुक छौँ उहाँको जर्नीको बारेमा थाहा पाउनको लागि। धन्यवाद। र यति भन्दै म माइक चाहिँ हाम्रो रविन्द्र डाक साहबलाई दिएर अहिलेलाई चाहिँ छोटो समयको लागि बिदा हुन चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार। Thank you, Dr. Pratibha and Dhimal sir. चाहिँ अब मेरो बायोटेक एन्टरप्राइजको जर्नीको भनौँ न, हजुरले भन्ने जस्तै 2 दशकको कथा छोटकरीमा सुनाउन जाँदैछु होइन। अनि मेरो चाहिँ अब अङ्ग्रेजीमा प्रेजेन्ट गर्ने प्लान थियो। अब म त्यही अनुसार नै प्रिपेयर भएको थिएँ होइन। नेपालीमा बोलेको भए हुने रहेछ। आई जस्ट रियलाइज नाउ। अब चाहिँ अब नेपाली इङ्ग्लिसबाट म चाहिँ प्रेजेन्ट गर्छु। अनि आई डोन्ट थिङ्क देयर इज एनी वान हु डजन्ट अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड नेपाली लिसनिङ इन राइट नाउ, मेरो विचारमा है। अनि आई एम अज्युमिङ द्याट माई स्क्रिन इज राइट नाउ भिजिबल। क्यान समबडी गिभ मी फिडब्याक बाई शेकिङ देयर हेड?
हजुर, भिजिबल छ हजुर। अनि हजुरले हाइब्रिड मोडलमा जानुभयो नि हुन्छ, हामीले भिडियोमा चाहिँ पछि क्याप्सन पनि राख्छौँ।
हजुर, अल राइट, ठिक छ। ओके, okay, so let's start. So I'm going to talk about how I was able to bring in the antibody technology to Nepal and how that somehow became my destiny. I did my schooling at Budanil Country School. I did A-levels in physics, chemistry, and biology. And at that time, my family and my relatives, everybody else around me, expected that I would go on to study medicine and become a doctor. But because it was seen as such a common thing to do if you were a good student, I somehow wanted to rebel. And also I was not very interested in medicine itself. So I looked up for different options, and at that time, biochemistry came up as a new subject. And I searched different universities where I could study that, and that was not going to be in Nepal. It wasn't available. So Oxford was one of my choices, and luckily I got a scholarship to study there. And I went on a 4-year course in Master of Biochemistry. It was a different and exciting and a little depressing experience for me, because all the while I was at Oxford, I was wishing that we had this kind of institute and this kind of resources and this kind of teaching back home in my country. So I don't remember enjoying all of it 100%, because it made me nostalgic as well, comparing what was happening at Oxford to what is readily available in Nepal at that time. After finishing my degree, I flew straight back to Nepal, and I started looking for a job. As a biochemistry graduate, there were hardly any jobs available. It turned out there were some openings in teaching biochemistry to medical students, and I joined up at a medical school in Bairaba. I remember working quite hard and liking the way the students treated their teachers. So it was an enjoyable job, but somehow I don't remember feeling very passionate about it. I think something else was pulling me away from it. And that might have been this regular interaction with my friends from Oxford, Nick Hutchings, who was my one of my best friends, and another Nepali student, Raju Adhikari. They were doing DPhil, PhD in Oxford at that time, and we were communicating through emails. In those days, phone calls were very expensive. And they were telling me about their botched experiments and stressed lab days because the antibodies weren't working properly. And the commercially available antibodies at that time were not properly validated, it seems, and they had to buy what was available, and that was not helping with their projects. So along with Professor Neil Barkley, who was a mentor to Nick Hutchings, we discussed ideas about whether we could provide an alternative and make an antibody production company and provide better antibodies for the life science research community. And so using that, we went on to develop a proper business idea. And our idea was that we would make good polyclonal antibodies against all human proteins, like a catalog approach. And incidentally, around the same time, the human genome had just been sequenced. And so using that information, we decided that we could make, we had access to all the sequences of the human proteins, so we could make antibodies against all of them. And we would not have an expensive goat rearing facility. Instead, we would use Kathmandu farmers as our partners in the goat rearing. And we would do all the manufacturing and testing in Nepal. And then we would also set up a British company to kind of brand and sell the products outside, because Nepal at that time, we didn't think had enough of a reputation to be a source of such high quality products. And with our idea, we pitched it to various potential angel investors, and we found one, Garth Collins. This guy really loved Nepal. So he and his wife had been trekking in the mountains a few times before we met him. He was a really, really nice guy. And he turned out over the years to be a very patient investor. So not asking us for a quick profit. He, of course, liked our idea and team. That's why he wanted to join us. And he had a great business sense. So we were just young scientists, and we had world-changing ideas, but we were not very up to date with the business realities. So I think it was good that we had in our team. It's probably critical. So even after having the source of funds to as investment and a good business idea, we still had our share of problems. And one of the major one I remember was that we were the only company in Nepal trying to do this kind of thing. So we would be the first to approach various government agencies like the Company Registrar's Office, the Department of Industry, and the right section on foreign investment. And they just wouldn't understand what our product was, what we were planning to make, what services we were planning to provide. And so they were very hesitant in giving us their agreement to go ahead. So it was a struggle. It was really struggle for months and months and months and almost a year before we could actually get all the approvals. And as young people, we were very impatient at that time. And I remember it being a very difficult period. Apart from that, so after we got things up and running, Nepal had just entered a very difficult part of its political spectrum, insurgency and royal coup and whatnot. And there were so many strikes every month, or sometimes a couple of times a month, and then indefinite strikes. And that actually made, I felt okay. I felt that I could walk to work, but my British partners, I mean, they were really nervous about having invested that much money and effort, and then seeing that we had to face that kind of problems. And they were wondering whether it was the right choice to have this startup in Nepal instead of some other safe country. And additionally, there was this ever-present problem of load shedding, long hours of electric blackouts. And as a biotech industry, that was especially difficult because all our reagents and operations had to rely on an uninterrupted supply of electricity. And that meant we had to invest a lot of resources, precious resources, in having backups. And we had to be very creative about how we protected our stocks. And by stock, I mean the antibodies that we had made and the reagent stocks that were really, really expensive. But despite all those troubles, we worked very hard. We made successfully more than 3,000 different antibodies. I think it's something we can be proud of, because just making one antibody can take researchers like 6 to 9 months. I think some of us who are listening in might have actually tried that or know somebody who tried. It's a difficult venture, and to have actually made 3,000, I think it's quite a feat for a small company of our size. And then that time we realized that we were really terrible, really terrible in being able to sell those and market those properly. So we had to partner with global companies who were excellent in marketing networks. So we found some good partners: Abcam, Sigma, Biorad, and LS Bio. These companies sold our products worldwide to scientists in all the top universities in the world. So basically, it was a proud moment when we realized that our antibodies made in Nepal were being used at some of the best institutions around the world. And the thing is, after a few years, the process of making antibodies day in and day out started to get me bored. It was exciting in the first year and second year, but then it became pretty routine. And I did not have any new skills to diversify, because I had just done master's degree, and I had already had a very long gap from academia, and I wasn't really aware of what was going on, what the scientists around the world were looking for, what kind of services they would need, what kind of experiments they were doing. And on top of that, I did not have much research experience myself. So that made me decide to go on a PhD program, and I chose immunology in Zurich. This guy, Professor Thorsten Buch, who, as you can see, also loves mountains. He had been to Nepal, and he was really intrigued by my experience of having set up a biotech company and having made polyclonal antibodies. So he took me up. And in his lab in Zurich and later in Munich, I worked extensively on a transgenic mouse model to study T-cell development. So apart from getting this degree, a PhD, what this did to me was that it provided a major update on life sciences research. And I also got to interact with hundreds of researchers, PhD students, postdocs, and professors in various lab meetings and conferences and seminars. And so I got to know what the latest needs were, what the latest services and products companies were providing. So basically what the potential of biotech industry was going to be. And on top of that, the program also provided me with a deep expertise in flow cytometry, and that was to become useful later on in my own enterprise. I came back to Nepal in the beginning of 2015, and although I was excited to be here, back with family and back in my own country and back running my own business, instead of laboring in a lab for my PhD, I was shocked when the massive earthquake greeted all of us, and that actually made me wonder whether returning to Nepal was a right decision, whether it was the right thing to do, because for many months, as some of you might remember, we were constantly fearing for our lives and running away from buildings as soon as there were tremors. And that the fear was so deep that I decided we had to build our own premises. So until that point, we had been operating on rented properties for example, in the teaching hospital building in Maharajganj, and then later on in White House College in Satyavarta, Lalitpur. So this made us commit to building our own premises, and we built earthquake-proof light structure on which my current company, Shikhar Biotech, is situated. Having come back with new ideas and skills, I was very motivated to start new operations, to diversify, try something new. But my UK partners at this point were not very willing and not very interested to try that, because they did not want to risk a business that was financially stable. So that kind of led to a new compromise where I converted the Nepal operations of Everest Biotech into an independent company, Shikhar Biotech, in our control, so that we could now carve its new destiny apart from just making good polyclonal antibodies. And so we quickly got down to trying new stuff, and in 2016, we were able to establish successfully the immunofluorescence technique of imaging cells using antibodies. So this is a beautiful technique that provides the information on expression of different proteins in cells. And I also had expertise in flow cytometry, we were able to establish this. I think this was the first time in Nepal that it happened. And so this took place in 2017, and in 2018 we were able to set up immunohistochemistry. Again, using antibodies, we could look at the tissue structure and see expression of different proteins. So around this time, there were some defining moments going on in the antibody industry. In Nature, there was a huge publication by Bradbury and Blockthorn, and this was signed by about 120 co-signatories, life scientists and researchers. And they published this because they were really concerned that the research that was going on was not very reproducible due to the lack of good quality antibodies. And that's because the market was flooded with antibodies from different companies. They were putting them out without testing them properly, and they were polyclonal, so varying from batch to batch. So basically, they called for a new scenario where all the antibodies would be made by recombinant DNA technology. They would be defined so that there would be no changes when it was used in one lab versus in another, and from a different supplier. So although this was a groundbreaking moment, this suggestion was not possible because there were very small quantities of antibodies that were produced using recombinant DNA technology. The rest of the hundreds of thousands of antibodies were still polyclonal, and it would take 10 or 20 years to replace them with the new technology. So a compromise was made where another group of scientists in a consortium made a proposal saying that if the available antibodies were properly validated, then they could be used reliably. So that actually created a new service potential for Shikhar Biotech. Shikhar Biotech became an antibody validation company from antibody producing company, because we had very deep expertise in Western blotting, and having done hundreds of thousands of Western blotting experiments ourselves, and we had set up immunofluorescence. We had expertise in flow cytometry, and we also had expertise in immunohistochemistry. And actually, these are the techniques how antibodies are validated. So because of our expertise and our good work, I think we were able to get big antibody companies as our customers. They had lots of antibodies that they could not test themselves, so they would send to us, and we would provide the data showing whether the antibodies worked or not, and whether they could sell them or not. And additional research and development work was going on, and we were able to develop a breakthrough product. And this is Shifix cover slips. These cover slips are really special because they can attach free-flowing cells. So normally only sticky type of cells can attach to cover slips, and they are then used for imaging and finding expression of different proteins. But in our case, our cover slips could attach not just the sticky ones, but the free-flowing cells as well. So these cells could now also be imaged. And so this new technique was now available to researchers around the world. This was a unique product with no competition, and still there is no competition after a few years. And we have been selling this product to lots of customers, including very high-profile ones like the FDA and National University of Singapore and the National Universities in Japan, everywhere. And within this time, while I was still young, my entrepreneurial interest and hunger was growing. So I became a strategic partner in other companies. Absolute Antibody was set up to make antibodies through recombinant DNA technology. So this was going to be the future anyway of antibody industry. So that's why I was interested in joining it. And a Swiss company called Clemety, which utilizes next generation sequencing to identify which antibody is right for a particular pathogen from an infected person. And another antibody company called Absol has developed a new technology which makes recombinant antibodies that are used in monoclonal therapy to have much less side effect, especially the cytotoxic side effect. This set of new platforms and technologies for the future really interested me, and so I became strategic partners in them. And not just that, so we wanted to have gene technology ourselves at Shikhar, and so we decided to go on to set up gene editing technology using CRISPR-Cas9 method, which has now become the gold standard. And Dr. Sunita Gimre Gautam was returning from Japan, having finished a PhD and postdoc, and she was interested to join us. And together we have successfully set this up at Shikhar. And we have recently also set up expression systems, which can produce coronavirus as spike proteins and things like this, which can be used to make diagnostic kits. And we are working on that, and we have already made some success. I've had some bittersweet moments. In the meantime, Everest Biotech got sold in 2019. It was bought by a US private equity firm. So what this did was it validated our original mission, which was very satisfying. And of course, a sale of a company comes with some financial reward. So pursuing biotech enterprise is not just hard work. So if it works out, then it's worth it financially too. It was sad to say goodbye to a company that we built together with so much effort, And also it was difficult to say goodbye to the team. We're still friends, but not a team anymore. And eventually Absolute Antibody also got sold because it was showing a lot of promise as the recombinant DNA antibody company. And then there was some setback to my health, and then COVID-19 pandemic hit. So I took that gap and lockdown and slightly difficult health issues. And so I took that time to pause and celebrate what I had and what we had achieved, and stop chasing stuff for a while. And the pandemic seems to have also lessened, and I think we have crossed the worst part of it, and my health also improved. So I'm back to chasing new interests and ideas, and so we are now developing COVID antibody and antigen detection systems. We're almost there, and we have also thinking about making antibodies in alpacas. So these are llama-like animals in Farping, Chitlang, based in Chitlang, and these antibodies have some special properties. That's why they might be important for diagnostics and research. And we are also interested in other simple diagnostic products for small labs in Nepal, in peripheral labs in the rural areas. So that's how we wish to contribute to Nepal, apart from just making the best products for scientists at Harvard and Stanford. So I would want to summarize how I think I got here. One of the defining things was that I chased my dream and did not go on to study medicine as everybody else was telling me to. I think I was also quite patient and not looking for quick success. We had some difficult times during our early years, no sales for a long time. And then when sales started happening, we were not making profit for a while. And I did not just leave that and run away to find a job overseas. I also made the right friends and connections. So that's probably comes down to luck. Luck plays a big part in the success of companies and of your dreams, I think. And I remember working very hard, at least sometimes during my tenure at Everest and Shikhar. And I think the most fundamental aspect was that I really enjoyed my work. And of course, I don't think I achieved what I could have, or somebody else in my position could have. I don't remember chasing growth too much, and I also missed many opportunities. I think I'm a bit lazy as well, and I'm not very social networking savvy person, so I didn't expand my network enough. And I was also not a tough manager and didn't apply management skills too much. And also I was not so hungry for financial reward and quick growth. So that means my company Shikhar Biotech is still quite small, like with only around 20 people after having set it up for 20 years. But I have to say that I'm pretty satisfied. And of course, all this would not have been successful with the help of all those around me. I think the biggest contributor is my family. And after that comes my group circle of friends and the teachers at schools and universities that shaped my thinking, and lots of scientists that I met and provided me with new insights and ideas, and the professional network, which encouraged me. And of course, I mean, although the government authorities were resistant to my attempts in the beginning, they eventually caved in and helped us. And so I have a lot of people to thank for my journey so far. And I also would like to thank all of you who have been listening to me without getting bored. And I'm actually really looking forward to any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sapkota, for an amazing presentation and sharing about your journey with us. This was very inspiring to me, and I'm sure to the audiences here. If anyone has any question, please put your question in the chat box, or we might also let you raise your hand and then speak. Make sure your question is really short and to the point, looking at the time and everything. We'll take a few questions now. It was very nice to hear Dr. Sapkota's journey of science, entrepreneurship, and research in Nepal. As humble as he is as a researcher and a person, it's amazing to see the growth of Shikhar Biotech and Everest Biotech in 20 years. I think it's a very short time, given like a lot of companies have to go through a lot of bureaucratic red tapes and really halt their growth. One of the testament for that is that he could exit from the first biotech company that he had started with his team. It also validates a lot of things, including his hard work. There's no way we can see any laziness here, like he was saying, but a lot of hard work, a lot of teamwork, and definitely a lot of management skills, whether he admits it or not. There are a few questions that are coming in. We also saw that he was doing research at the forefront, which was really amazing, seeing that it can be done from Nepal, and our collaborators and distributors can be multinational companies around the world is very encouraging. And sort of there are excuses all the time if we want to give and not move forward, but then, you know, it's very rewarding when you can pass through those excuses and work hard. That was really amazing too. Here are a few questions. There's one question from a biotech student, Akshita. She is saying, what would your suggestion be to the students wanting to pursue their early career in biotech? Dr. Ravindra, I will be unmuting you. Yes.
To young students who are just graduates, I would say that you would have two routes. One is you could start a simple biotech setup in Nepal, especially plant-based, which is easy to take to market quickly. And apart from that, if you actually want to go into molecular level biotech enterprise, then I think you probably need to go on and study a bit further, try to look for a PhD position, and gather enough research experience, and a team of people and professors who can actually help you form a team. So actually, it's more about teamwork than your own dream. Well, that was my experience.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more question for you. So you said you did not use much of the management skills, and we don't see how that can be done. We know that a lot of us as researchers are trained technically, analytically, generally to be very sharp, but then we are not trained to be a good storyteller or a good marketer. And you talked about that challenge also. Could you tell us how you navigated the business or entrepreneurial space without such training? And what would be your advice to the researchers who would want to go your route, and what are some of the skills they could be getting, and how if they want to go your route?
Right. Thank you for the question. I think in my own case, it was more of a learning from my own experiences, so making mistakes and then containing the fallout and then taking a different route. I think that's how I dealt with it. And also, some of the people in my team, they had some management experience. And actually, our investor was really business savvy. So I think he was letting us the ideas on how to deal with situations. But yeah, I remember that not actually having the right mindset to dealing with difficult team members, with difficult staff sometimes. So I think I've gone through all of the bad things that can happen in a company. I could probably have avoided them if I had the right management skills. If I knew what to look for when I hire somebody, and what to look for when we try to collaborate with a different partner, with a different company. What might have helped me is having a 6 months course or diploma in management and in networking and in marketing. I think that would have helped us a lot. So that's something that I would advise. So if you think you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and if you have ideas, then I would suggest you at least take some online courses in management as well.
Great, thank you very much for your answer. We see passion, patience, and persistence there while you're dealing with not just the technical, but the adaptive challenges of science entrepreneurship. We have a question from Dr. Santosh Nepal. I'll be unmuting you. If you have a question, you can even ask in person, but then please raise your hand.
Okay, Ravindraji, thank you very much for sharing your experience. I find it amazing journey that you have already covered. But with every success, there are a lot of failures. I think which, when we share in a certain, the short time, we don't have enough time to share those failures, which is actually the building blocks of your success. I just want to learn from you. Can you please share your one, the failure, one failure that has the biggest, learning for you, that, and also that, the mistakes or failures, if you are given the chances to correct that in the past, what would be that? What would be what you would have done differently if given that opportunity?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So in the first few years, we were constantly making antibodies, and to do that, we were utilizing a large bulk of reagent material from a very prestigious company called Sigma, which is known around the world in the life science community. And so we were blindly using it, and in production of the antibodies, and the antibodies were being tested like 2 years later, and it turned out that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of our antibodies were not working. And that's because this product from Sigma was not the best somehow, although they claimed it and they marketed it very well. So we fell into that trap. We did not test it properly, and so we realized that we had finished all our money by that time, and we were far away from sales. So then we had to go back to our investor, and we had to beg him for a loan. Nobody else believed in us at that time, but he did. So he granted us a loan which was almost equal to his original investment. And with the new money, we took no chances. So we were validating and testing every reagent that we used. So sometimes in the past, we had gone for some Indian cheaper alternative reagents, and we stopped doing that. We made our operations follow the standard operating procedure very strictly, and that paid off in the end. So our antibody quality greatly improved again, and we could compete and eventually turn a profit and returned his loan with interest. So I think yeah, being negligent, or being I would use a better word, being complacent, that was one of my mistakes. I think I'm a complacent person generally, and that was a big wake-up call for me.
Thank you for saying. Very interesting.
Great.
Thank you.
For the question. That was really good, Santoshji, and thank you for answering, Dr. Ravindra. There is one more question from Sunilji. He's asking, so he's saying the main problem is viral or bacterial infection, as many new species are evolving now. So how can we chemists, biotechnologists, and zoologists can contribute and hand over to medical field? So how can we contribute in this current issue around bacterial infections and viral infections? That's his question.
Right. although I consider myself an expert on antibodies and that technology, I don't think I have enough knowledge of microbiology and zoology to actually propose a way. I think the way it's being addressed is there are hundreds or thousands of universities around the world, and they're putting a lot of resources in studying these individual species of bacteria and strains of viruses. And well, that's how the information about them is going to come up. And using that information, the scientists are going to propose how to deal with them in a biomedical or in the medical setting. For example, I was talking earlier about chlamydia, in which I'm a strategic partner. They use next generation sequencing to identify which antibiotic to use for a particular pathogen. So sequencing would be a way to actually identify how a new pathogen, bacteria, virus differs from the previous strain. And then again, no one can make a guess. It's a trial and error. So as soon as you have some information and you have a proposal to deal with it, you have to test it in the field. And most of the time it doesn't work. So most of the best scientists, they have had a lot of failures in their lab all the time. I saw that all throughout my PhD journey in multiple labs and in multiple conferences. I saw lots of failed attempts. So I think that's how we have to live with those organisms. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We're taking 1 to 2 more questions, and we'll be answering we'll be answering that as we take your questions. But then if you don't have any question, I have a question. This is really interesting. Someone sent me in the private chat also. You talked about some of the challenges in Nepal is bureaucratic red tape. It's very true for fragile ecosystems like Nepal, and especially in other countries in South Asia. So I am understanding that right now, as you were working with CRISPR technology, gene editing technology, you were also working closely with the government, especially NHRC and other governments, to talk about the RDT kit that you guys were making. We didn't talk much about that, but it would be nice to hear some of the challenges that you faced during that time, how you navigated the bureaucratic red tapes, and I'm sure you're still doing that. And some of those examples would be very helpful to know. We know it exists, but I think it's important to talk about it and know how to navigate the space. And while you say that, if you can tell us your learning about how can we lobby for science, technology, and innovation with the government so that we can make them more aware and accountable. That would be another question around science diplomacy. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that is one of the tricky areas that we had to deal with. And actually, it was not in our financial interest to even try that. We wanted to work on COVID diagnostic kits because we thought, as a biotech company, we had this obligation when this pandemic hit and there were people dying across our country. Although we made a genuine effort towards developing a kit, and then on top of that, identifying certain populations which had the virus without having symptoms. So basically, by detecting the antibodies and all that, we were not very encouraged in practice. In principle, we were greeted with a lot of enthusiasm by the government agencies like NSRC. They would appear very happy to talk to us. They wanted to have meetings. They wanted to obtain proposals from us, and they just wouldn't move this forward. And so we had to keep ringing them. We tried really hard, and also there were cases when we had to somehow get them on board. So if we had some idea, eventually it had to become a shared idea. And I don't know, they probably wanted to take ownership of the whole effort. And well, that didn't matter much to us because our mainstay is antibody and services, so that we were okay with that. But even in that situation, I think the Nepalese government authorities are interested more in short-term results, and so they can find it too difficult to wait for something that takes a long time to develop and become fruitful. So what you need is a lot of persistence, a lot of networking ability, which I said earlier I didn't have, and at this stage in my life I really don't have the patience to please people just for the sake of that. Unless it benefits the country and our company, why would I bother? I would say that it's an endeavor that young people can take if you have time, if you have the energy, and if you have the patience. Go ahead and do it. Otherwise, I actually advise that you stay away from anything that needs a lot of government approvals. For example, any biological sample, human sample needs a government approval. So if you want to do something related to it, be prepared for a long fight and for a big budget. Otherwise, stay clear of that area, and then you can pursue your own dreams with a smaller budget, with a smaller risk. So why increase that financial risk to your company? You might be able to break that wall, but at a cost to your own potential. And so additionally, so what can be done around this? I find it very difficult to answer. We have tried, as Dr. Pratibha was herself the coordinator of this technology and innovation committee, so when we were giving suggestions to the government, the government of Nepal and its various bodies are too politically driven at the moment to listen to scientists as much as they should. And until that changes, I would leave that area and I would focus on being able to research, on being able to create new services and products, which are not tightly controlled by the government, and the government does not have undue interest in that. So as long as it benefits the society, as long as your idea contributes to the environment, contributes to employment, it's fine. Why go and hit your head against the wall? And so I have a general caution to give to everyone. So around the world, 95 of biotech companies are unprofitable. So they are just spending investors' money or their own money from their pockets. 95%. Only 5% are profitable. So remember that when you think of starting a biotech. So it's because of this situation that you don't need to take additional risks by trying to fight with the government. So find areas where there is no need to fight. There is no conflict of interest, which we learned the hard way with the COVID detection systems and monitoring antibodies. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Great.
Keep yourself away from unneeded troubles.
Thank you, Dr. Sapkota. That was a very honest and honest answer, mixed with reality we have been facing as science entrepreneurs, obviously. I do agree, and we have been proposing that government, until and unless government takes risk when people are trying to innovate, the innovation will have higher risk and lower reward, and so no one will be willing to take that sort of hit in the entrepreneurial sphere. I think that sort of covers the gist of what he was trying to say. We'll take one last question from Dr. Pramod Paudel, but before that, I see people are leaving. So let's take a collective picture. If you can please turn on your video, that'd be great. and then we'll take a picture, and then we'll go on to the last question, and then our executive member, Dr. Santosh Nepal, will be closing the session. Right. So could you
Okay, everyone, please turn on the video.
Video if possible. Great. We have few
Yeah,
more.
yeah. Please turn on your video.
I'll wait a few seconds and then understand that whoever hasn't turned off on the video would not want to do that. Great. Okay, smile. One more. Thank you. So I'll be taking question from Dr. Pramod Paudel, who is also member of YSFN, among many other important role he plays in the ecosystem. Dr. Paudel.
Thank you, Pratibha Darsaf. Actually, it was very interesting talk from Dr. Ravinda Sapkota. Actually, I enjoyed, and I had a chance to meet you at the Shikhar Biotech as well. Do you remember me?
Of course, I do.
Yeah. Thank you. So actually, I have one question. Just the continuity of that actually in our country, they are willing to have to be entrepreneurs, and also the government have some budgets. Actually, government has allocated some budget to those entrepreneurs. So from your perspectives, how we can disseminate or disperse the budget to those graduates who are willing to be an entrepreneurs in Nepal? Just from your side, I need the suggestions from your side.
Right. Thank you for the question, Dr. Paudel. I think the key ingredient in any enterprise is the existence of a market. So if you just have an idea for a product, but it doesn't have a market, easy access to market, or the existence of a market, then it won't work. So we need a system of evaluating the business idea these entrepreneurs may have on the basis of whether there actually is a market. The idea might sound very good. So let's not go just on the technique and the science behind it, but whether it's actually a business idea, whether it would work. So whether it would actually generate revenue and generate profit. That's what enterprise is all about. It's not just about spending anyone's money or the money that belongs to the government. So you have to actually get more in return than what you invested. So that's what a business is. So if the entrepreneurs actually understand that, and they can show a route to profitability, a route to market, yeah, then it's fine. So what I can assure you, and all the budding potential entrepreneurs, is that Shikhar Biotech has access to the marketing network in the life science industry. So we have the network in place. So you can either use us as a vehicle if you wish, which is an opportunity, I think, or we can also introduce you directly to the various marketers outside, marketing companies. So if you look at the global science profile, and if you identify a product which you can make cheaper or better, then let us know, and we can become your ladder for selling those to the researchers outside. Actually, within Nepal, there is a very limited market. So please do not bet yourself thinking that you can sell easily to Nepalese research community, because they don't have budget.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. It's been an hour since we started. It didn't feel like it at all, definitely. Thank you so much, all of you, for staying with us patiently on this Saturday night. I will pass my mic to Dr. Santosh Nepal, and I would like to thank you all for listening to us. Also, please stay until we close. It'll be only a few more minutes, and then we'll be done, and we're ready to celebrate our Saturday night. After that, thank you, Dr. Ravinda Sapkota, for such an inspiring talk. It was really nice to hear more about your journey. I definitely was aware of your journey, but then this was really in detail. We'll be putting it on YouTube so that more Nepali diaspora and other researchers around the world can be inspired from your stories and start innovating in their ecosystem and making their ecosystem stronger. With this, I would like to pass my mic to Dr. Santosh Nepal.
Thank you, Dr. Pratibha, and thanks a lot, Dr. Sapkota, for sharing your amazing journey. This is the objective of the YSFN Talk series, that we just don't, see the iceberg, tip of the icebergs, but there is a large things behind the success, and that's what you have shared with us, your struggle, your story, and then how did you overcome the challenges. And then again, we firmly believe that this is the opportunity for the youth who is already participating on this talk series to inspire from your story. And this is fantastic and amazing journey. The journey that you started from Budaneelkhanta to Oxford, and how did you, started revealing your own family, not going to this tradition path, and then again coming back to Nepal, and then learning and relearnings, and then developing the networking, bringing the ideas. So this is again like all sort of ingredients are already there. But what I find three very important things in your journey that I see when I was listening to you. The first is the idea. And the idea is very easy to come, that everyone who is participating here has certain ideas to do something in your life, whether it's startup companies or any other kind of entrepreneurs that you want to develop. And this is your journey, that you also, brought this idea of biotech company, starting a biotech company in Nepal. And there's nothing new. Everybody has that ideas. What is very unique in your case is the two things that I observed. One is the perseverance, the consistency that you have shown dealing with starting from the frustrations or chasing your dreams, or the overcoming the challenges. I can understand that not only finding the funding was the problem for you, but also how to start with the registrations, because there is so much of gaps probably in the registration systems or government systems, or you brought a completely new topic for them. So those kind of solving those kind of problems is not easy unless you have that perseverance, which needs to be in your gene level, at least if you want to work on Nepal. The second point I found is the diligence, the hard working that we can hear, from your work that you have built over the years, the continuously hard working, and your the attitude of not going for the quick or overnight success. I think that is something that is one of the ingredients of your success. That's what I feel, But apart from that, there are a lot of, the supports and help and other kind of things is required. Like I recall that you were mentioning, your smartness in terms of finding the right group of people and networking, and then again, your attitude of learning from failures. I think that's something that are the ingredients of your success. And you also shared about the failures, because I personally believe that when we look at the successful persons, the failure is the building block of people's success. And especially in your field, the biotech field, failure is the greatest ingredient of innovations, because unless you fail, you don't learn, because there are so much of unknown things, and that's what you have overcome. So amazing journey. Again, like you started from ideas, you have this perseverance, you have this diligence, which actually brought to you at this stage of Shikhar Biotech. And thank you very much. I think it's very difficult to summarize things that you have already explained, which is already like a very, very clear to us. But there was so much to learn from us also. And thank you very much for sharing this. And we'll be putting this in the YouTube as well, like Dr. Pratibha said. And I would also like to thank all the participants. And you have already heard from Pratibha and Meghnadji that this will be a monthly talk series that we are trying to organize, and we'd also like to bring the people who have already established this kind of success stories. We are not going for any kind of technical presentations. We want to hear that story which can inspire the youths who also want to pursue their dreams in the similar field. So with this, I would like to thank everyone. And Pratibhaji, is there anything? I'm just passing this to you. And I would, thank you.
Yeah, I think this is good. I'm still like absorbing in a lot of like inspirational things that we could get from this talk. I'm sure the more we listen to this again and again, we'll be catching new points.
Exactly.
We look forward to our next episode number 2. Stay tuned. We'll be becoming hopefully better at these technical stuff as we do this. Thank you very much. And if you have any recommendation in terms of who could be one of our speakers, please feel free to email us about it as well. Thank you so much. If there is anything else, I have let you all can unmute yourself now finally. So if you have anything, if you want to thank Dr. Ravindra, that's great. With this, we would like to end this session. Thank you very much. There in the chat sessions, people are appreciating Dr. Ravindra's passion, persistence, perseverance in this journey. We see how difficult it is, and thank you for doing this for us as Nepalis and for the country as well. Thank you very much. Namaste. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. I would like to quickly thank the organizers, Dr. Santosh Nepal, Dr. Meghnad Timal, and Dr. Pratibha Pandey for this amazing platform. I thank you very much. And I think this is a great job that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste.
Namaste.